Hi, everyone. Welcome to JLive. I'm JArts Executive Director Laura Mandel, and it's great to be with you for JLive, our series of virtual cultural experiences that bring us together to explore and celebrate the diverse world of Jewish art, culture, and creative expression. We're bringing you bite-sized conversations with the best Boston area talent. So today we have actually brought someone back. This is the first time we've done a reprise, but Chef Michael Leviton was so popular the last time when he was cooking Israeli food for us from the vineyard that we wanted to bring him back. And also he's been an active voice for advocating for restaurants in this really difficult moment of COVID. So we thought we would have a little fun talking a little bit more about Israeli food, about how we can all help restaurants in this moment and more. So, Michael, let's talk.
Hey, how are you?
Cool. Doing well. This is fun because I'm excited to talk about Israeli food. So tell me.
I am, I was at doing the food shopping as I am wont to do, since that's my job at the house. But I was impressed with, I went to Trader Joe's and, I'd been introduced to it a while ago, but found one of my favorite condiments, a thing of zhug. Normally I would make this myself, but I'd actually been introduced to it a few years ago and thought, hey, this is really cool. And that really got me thinking about the notion of all these really cool, formerly Israeli products that we're now seeing kind of creep into the mainstream, right? So it's not just the Middle Eastern inflected restaurants that we were seeing pre-COVID, but now it's it's in the grocery aisles as well. So whether it's the tahini, I couldn't find the artisanal tahini that I was looking for, but there were others, and it's just really impressive to see.
Well, and I love how the other day we were saying when, we took a food tour of Israel 2 years ago. And when we went, it was this like great opportunity to explore the many flavors that are Israeli food. And I have to admit, it was almost a shock to me recently when someone said, there are 70 different cultures within Israeli culture and cuisine. And that's when I think you and I said, okay, well, let's start counting and let's figure out how we all at home can talk about those. So you're talking about the zhug. I know we had also talked about the mango amba. I don't know if anyone is familiar with this, but we went on a hunt for sabich sandwiches across Israel. If you don't know what that is, it's an egg and eggplant sandwich. And this amba is a critical element of this. And I said, it's amazing they have at Trader Joe's these days.
Right. In fact, I even, I did a falafel demo for Honeymoon Israel last weekend, and not knowing that Trader Joe's had amba, made my own. And there's actually a really cool New York Times recipe. They doctored up an Adina Sussman recipe for a quick amba, which doesn't really pickle the green mango, but you put in a bunch of fish sauce to give it that funky flavor. So that plus the fenugreek in there gives it a really, super funky, but still bright and fruity and spicy deliciousness. Right.
Amazing. I will also note we are both huge fans of Adina Sussman. If you all out there don't know her, she has a cookbook that has been the biggest Israeli cookbook of the last year, I would say, called Sababa, and it's really fantastic.
That's awesome. And in fact, I was thinking of her, actually her and Orit, the awesome tour guide that took you, me, and Tony around. But in that little the King of Soups stand in the Yemenite soup in the back, in sort of back behind.
The Shukka Carmel, right?
Yes, right.
Yep.
And I went down sort of into the kitchen there, and they gave me a taste of this stewed lung dish, right? Which, as epiphanous as the calf's foot soup with hawaj was, the stewed lungs were even more of an epiphany of how you could just take something that you would think nobody's going to eat and make it sing at, sort of Mormon tabernacle choir levels. So I was WhatsApping with Orit trying to get her to get the recipe for me.
I love it. Well, it's like last year.
Technically, we're not allowed to have lungs in the United States. You're not allowed to sell them. So I may
Interesting.
have to find somebody, who's butchering their own cow.
I didn't know that. I do know that last year when you did the cooking demo with us for Taste of Israel, which was your brainchild, we had done tongue, and I know
Our brainchild.
our brainchild. But I
Yes.
think what was amazing to me about the tongue is that, how many people say it's not something they want to eat, but what an important part of Israeli cuisine it actually is from a number of different cultures. And I thought it was amazing how you made that soup and made it so a little more accessible for many of us.
Well, I think from the chefy perspective, I think there's something magical about being able to take these incredibly humble cuts of meat, the things that, look, if you're gonna raise and butcher an animal, I think that you sort of have this moral obligation to use every little bit of it, right? Otherwise, it's just.
Well, I think it's interesting nowadays that's a chefy thing, but the truth is, if you look at the history and culinary traditions of most cultures, that is the case. So I think that's why,
Right.
we were traveling across Israel, we're tasting all these interesting parts.
Right. Well, look, if we here in the States are blessed with this, abundance of riches, but also an abundance of space. And so if you go to the Middle East or if you go to Europe, there just isn't the same level of pasture land to raise as many animals as we do here. And, if you are, from a sort of culinary and cultural history perspective, if you, are a small farmer and you're raising a few animals that you fed throughout the spring and summer, and coming winter time, right, and you're going to slaughter that animal, you're going to make sure you use every little bit of it because that's what's going to keep you fed during the winter. There's this, the cucina povera or poverty cuisine, whatever culture you come from, some of the most interesting food really comes from that sort of space. And I just find it, lots of chefs have said something to the effect of, anyone can be a hero with foie gras and truffles, right? If you can take these really humble things, take a carrot, take a calf's foot, and some herbs and make that sing, then you're way more of a chef, right? That's really where the impressive stuff comes in. And if you combine that notion with, for me, the grandmotherly notion, right? At BU, when I teach the kids there, I'm always saying, don't worry about the Instagram picture. I want you guys to think about, I want you to channel your inner grandmother, right? Grandma cooks because, not because she wants to impress you with a pretty picture. Grandma cooks because she loves you beyond compare and would do anything to make you happy. And this is the way she does it, right? And so, if you channel that prototypical, grandmother from the hills who's, how she's going to make something that sings because she loves you, right? That
Yep.
to me is that's what I tasted in the back alley at the Shuk Carmel, right?
Yeah.
I didn't
Yep.
taste any pretense, right? And so
Yep.
if we can get to that, that's for successive tours of Israel, the grandmother tour, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and it is interesting because I think you're right. Like, it's not always about Instagram. It's about the traditions and the feelings and how do we make those relevant to people again. And I think that that's something we've been really, really pushing to do with Taste of Israel. So I'm excited when different chefs around town reimagine these dishes, or when we can talk to them about using these interesting cuts of meat or different, very simple ingredients, because I think there's such power to that.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So Taste of Israel, what are we going to do this year? How are we going to make that happen, right?
Well, I think it's interesting because I think, given the state of restaurants right now, it's really difficult, right? And I know we'll talk about that a little more in a minute, but just as far as Taste of Israel goes, the thing that I think we're both really excited about is that this January, when it is the 3rd annual Taste of Israel, what I think is great is that we're still going to be able to support restaurants in this. So even if they are having a horrible season, or especially knowing that they might be having a horrible season, that we are going to be able to direct all of you to go eat there. And on top of that, I think continue these conversations about, like, what is Israeli food and how do we bring these creative reimaginations to Boston? So I think it's a really exciting opportunity.
Yeah, no, I'm always it is fascinating. And just the notion, as you said before, of 70 different cultures, right? Each in some way trying to preserve their unique heritage, but also to do it in the context of a very specific environment. And then also to see how those cultures and culinary traditions, you know, get stirred up in the proverbial melting pot is fascinating, right? And
Absolutely.
you know, it's interesting. We here in the States, you know, we're really young, if you know, as compared to the Middle East, and so we don't have that same level of cultural history in a way. At least, you know, I can't speak to the Native American population, and I don't want to slight anybody in that regard. However, you know, it's 6,000 years of recorded history over there, and it's really fascinating. And it just, you know, I think from, I don't know, I've said it a bunch of times before, but the you know, there are certain ways in which we connect with our heritage and our religion, and for some of us, it really comes through food more than any other way. So the opportunity
Absolutely.
to do that and to see how other people are doing that, and to, you know, post-COVID go and experience it again, that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. I think that's why we were both so excited to have some of these ingredients at Trader Joe's to sort of taste and feel some of it, and to know that come January, you know, there's going to be this big week when we can all actually sort of go out in real life and order from restaurants and support them and taste some of these flavors. I'm excited that we're going to be able to do that.
But we should be supporting restaurants now as well.
So, okay, so speaking of supporting restaurants, talk to us about some of your advocacy work here.
Okay, so you know, I've been working, I got together with Tony Maws and Jody Adams and a bunch of other chefs, from Jamie Bissonette and Ken Oringer and John Mendez and Bessie Smith and some other folks. And we started this organization, you know, right after COVID hit. And basically, well, I'm going to take a step back, but I was at the eye doctor the other day, and, you know, asking how his business was. And he was saying, oh, it's great. You know, we had this little, you know, dip when the lockdown, but other than that, it's come back. And, you know, everybody that, you know, everyone that comes in, you know, they're doing okay, right? Their businesses are good. And you know, in my mind, I was like, yeah, that's fabulous. But, you know, you're in Wellesley, right? 1 in 10 people in the state, in this country, work in the restaurant industry. And they're the people that you don't see, right?
Did you just say 1 in 10 people?
1 in 10. So
that's incredible. I didn't know that before you said that.
Yeah, it's a terrible statistic, right? I love the restaurant industry, but that's a terrible statistic, right? That speaks measures as to how poor our economy is, that 1 in 10 are in that sort of in, you know, that level of service, right? Mm-hmm. Those are not great jobs by and large. 10% of the Massachusetts workforce and while it has come back significantly in August, 89% of the 300,000 hospitality sector jobs in the state, 89% of those were furloughed, right? Wow. A lot of us don't see that, right? You see that the restaurants, oh, they're outdoor dining, they're going to be fine. No. And indoor dining, no, right? Unless you were really set up for takeout and delivery pre-COVID, it's not happening for you right now. And the math is such that, you know, even if you have some outdoor seats, what happens when it rains? What happens when it gets cold, right? And it's not as many seats as you had indoors, right? Yeah. And 25% occupancy, if you were to allow people into your restaurant, is Well, 25% occupancy means max you're going to do 25% of what you could have done beforehand. And you signed a lease based on 100%. So if your rent payments were normally 6, 8, 10% of gross, now they're 24 or 32 or 40% of your gross, which is entirely unsustainable, right? You'll go bankrupt really quickly. And I don't think people understand that the profit margins in the industry are so slim. You know, look, all chefs, they're rock stars. Well, you know, we're 6% on the dollar if we're lucky, right? And that's in a good month. Yeah. And we're about to approach the worst months. And December is generally a good month, but no one's booking a holiday party. So that money is all gone too. You know, I hate to be all doom and gloom, but you know, 20% right now are closed for good. It's just going to get worse as it gets colder. And if the federal government doesn't come up with a stimulus yesterday, it's going to be a bloodbath, right? Waiting till January if we're lucky, even then getting something passed and getting the money dispersed, you know, if that's the end of the first quarter, there's going to be a lot less restaurants. And I'm really worried that people aren't going to miss it until it's gone, right?
Yeah.
It looks okay on the surface, but you know, this is, I can't stress enough how impactful this is to a certain segment of our economy that for a lot of us might go unseen because we don't peek behind the curtain every day, right? And a lot of those folks too that, you know, are out of work are not for a number of reasons able to, they weren't getting unemployment and they're not getting government assistance. And it's really, really difficult for them. And by the way, they happen to be living in the hotspots. So they are screwed at a bunch of different levels. And, you know, if we talk about measuring the character of a country by how it takes care of its least, or character of a society, I think right now we're doing a pretty miserable job. And we need to figure out a way to do a lot more really quickly. That said, because I just dropped a bomb of doom and gloom on everybody, there are ways that we can help. And I think the biggest one is order takeout, right? Go and pick it up. Don't order delivery. And if they're using one of the third-party delivery apps, stop. Don't do it. Don't be that person. The third-party delivery apps, while really convenient for you as a consumer, and they you know, it's 15 to 30% that they're charging the restaurateur. They're not, so all of that expense is taken out of a business where I already told you the profit margins are, you know, 6, 7, 8%, and you know, if you have to pay 30% to get it delivered, don't even bother, right? And those fees are usurious, right? They're it just and completely unsustainable. Go and pick it up. You know, take 5 minutes out of your day, go pick up the food, and make sure that the restaurant is getting all that they have coming to them, right? I realize it's a little inconvenient, but hey, we're all home right now, so suck it.
Well, and I know you know, we in normal times, you know, try to limit the amount of takeout we're doing because, well, it's, you know, in a lot of ways, you know, possibly healthier, cheaper to eat at home. And we've actually been going out of our way to order takeout. And I know a lot of people I've spoken to have said that. So I think if that's something we can all do.
Saturday night for date night. So, you know, do your part, help us spend our way to a recovery, right?
Yeah. Yes. Well, and not just to the end of these restaurants still being open in January for Taste of Israel, but to the end of like our entire restaurant industry is depending on us. Those of us who care enough to even be part of this conversation right now. We're the ones who can make a difference.
Right. Absolutely. And look, I understand people not wanting to go and eat in a restaurant. I'm in no hurry to do that either, but I have eaten, you know, outdoors, and we do order takeout. And you know, there's plenty of folks doing really wonderful food. Everyone's had to pivot a little bit and change their offerings because it's got to, you know, it's not the same not the same food if it has to travel.
Yeah.
But, you know, we're super fortunate here in Boston, in and around Boston. We have a lot of really incredibly talented people doing really interesting food. And, you know, I, with all my heart, urge you to support those people, support the ones in your neighborhood, support the ones a little further afield. But if we don't support them now, they're going to be gone and they're not coming back anytime soon.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will also just throw out another plug, which is that for Hanukkah this year at JArts, we're doing a dinner package for Hanukkah where you can pre-order a meal that, like Beyond Bubby's Kitchen, is custom created by one of 6 different restaurants in the area. And part of the goal is we know that we can't do Beyond Bubby's Kitchen in person this year. So this is a way to kind of get that feeling, but also to support restaurants through that. So I hope for all of you out there listening that you hear the memo loud and clear. Please go to restaurants, go pick up the food, to patronize. We all need this to happen.
Amen.
All right. Well, it's amazing how quickly 20 minutes flies by. But Michael,
okay.
This has been a joy. And I know for all of you who are interested out there, I'm sure we will have even more to say down the line. And in January, when Taste of Israel happens, which I will give you a heads up, will be January 26th to February 2nd. Again, that's the restaurant week that Michael and Tony Moz and I created 3 years ago. And so again, I hope that this will do some part in also helping restaurants in this time. So thank you, Michael.
No, thank you. Always a pleasure. I wish we were under different circumstances. And yes, please do stay tuned for Taste of Israel. It's going to be fabulous.
Absolutely. And as I say at the end of every JLive segment, if you like what you are seeing, please know that JArts depends on generous support like yours to make this possible. So today I will make 2 requests. One being, if possible, make a gift to JArts, and if possible, please go out and order a lot of takeout from restaurants. So thank you all for being here. Now go out and eat.
Awesome.